Hey everybody, welcome to week 1 of our Women in Balance. We are so excited to be together. We had a little bit of technical difficulties in getting started, but I think and I am hoping that we are good to go for our class tonight. It is such an honor to teach this topic and something that I get really excited about, if you haven't already been able to tell. But before I jump in, I want to ensure that everyone here, especially if you're watching the recording, knows how to navigate the Zoom platform. So what you're seeing now on your screen is my computer screen pulled up. But where you are, you can actually click over to the top there. You'll see the option of having just me as the speaker, or you can do like a little drop down and it'll have the entire class there, which is kind of fun. So if you want to do that, or if you want to make it full screen, you can kind of play around with those buttons. And then same thing with the chat. You can, depends if you're on a cell phone or a computer. My chat is at the top. For some of you, it might be at the bottom left. But if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. I'm going to take a moment just to mute you if you haven't already done so. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. So a couple of emails have shown up in your inbox, which is the first one was about, how to kind of go through the program as far as like what to expect. And you also got the grocery list for the week and the meal plan. And then the second email talked more about what the recipes are more specifically. We're going to be sharing the photos of those recipes in the Facebook group. So as you're cooking things, as you're preparing something, and you're comfortable with the Facebook group, and that group came out in the third email, then go ahead and share it in that Facebook group so that we can all ooh and ah over your recipe and get excited for you, because it is a celebration. I feel like every time I get the chance to make something delicious and healthy. So we need to celebrate that. And then also I want us to be able to use the Facebook platform as a space to really encourage one another. And if you're not on Facebook, don't feel like you're missing out. It'll be just fine. But for those of you who are, I would love to use that space so that it's just kind of easier to keep in touch with each other throughout the week. I feel like having a call once a week, I really start to miss you guys. Even though we're connecting and we have nutrition consultations, it's more that day-to-day where it starts to weigh heavily on you. And hopefully in last night's email, if you got a chance to read that, I talk quite a bit about what some of those symptoms are that you might begin to feel in the next couple of days as you begin to detox off of some of those inflammatory foods that may be triggers for you in your diet. And so there's going to be some physical as well as emotional side effects to this change. And so I want to make sure that we're there for each other physically in the Facebook group and cheering each other on spiritually and emotionally as well, because I feel really connected to this group and I get really excited every time I get to host this, because it's like a little family. Like I fall in love with everyone. So you have a new best friend in me. I hope you're okay with that. And I know some of you more than others. So if you're brand new here, welcome. We're really excited to have you. Okay, so let's just jump right in. If you have any questions about how to navigate the Zoom platform, let me know. And we will definitely be opening this up to questions at the end, especially if you have any concerns about the supplements or dosage or questions about pretty much anything you learned tonight, okay? So as we begin this 30-day course, I want you to think of tonight as like a jumping off point. Like you're really going to be able to soak in and learn all those things that could be contributing factors to why you're not feeling the way you'd like to feel, okay? And this has zero to do with weight. So if you're here to like find the numbers going down on the scale and that's your number one goal in life, I'm not sure you're in the right place, because I truly believe that feeling your very best is not about the number on the scale, that it's so much to do about how we feel. When you have those self-assessments, when you check in with yourself, whether it's like you're in the shower and you have time alone, or you are laying down for bed in those quiet moments, what are you saying in your self-talk, right? those are what I call like self-assessments or daily check-ins. In those quiet moments, what is it that I am feeling about myself? Am I feeling like, oh, I'm so exhausted. Today was such a long day. The kids wore me out. I ate foods I shouldn't have, and I feel terrible about myself. And I'm, a horrible mother. I'm a horrible person, right? That self-talk, that is like a movie screen or a story that just keeps playing over and over in your mind. And soon enough, your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit starts to believe all of that. And it puts itself and finds itself into all these different areas of our lives. And then we really, really struggle in our relationships. We struggle in our self-care. We're not sleeping as well. And of course, all of that plays a huge role in our hormonal imbalance as well. So if I could even, which I feel like I'm going to be like a broken record about self-care this whole time, but if I could just encourage all of you right now to just take a deep breath. You made it through day one, so like everybody breathe in with me, in, and then out. Okay, that's important. It's really, really important. Something tells me that I did hit record. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to double check that I did that. Okay, so what exactly are hormones and how do they affect our body? Hormones are these little tiny, almost like, it feels like electricity going through your body. And they're in every tissue of your body. They are in all of your organs, and they help regulate pretty much every system in your body, which is kind of unreal because it's not talked about a lot. We just expect that when it's that time of the month, we're going to be moody. We're going to have, weight gain, bloating, headaches, fatigue, all of these symptoms that come with PMS. And PMS is actually a symptom of hormonal imbalance, because to have those premenstrual symptoms, most women think that that's just how it has to be. But in fact, it's not how it has to be. It's exactly the opposite of what it has to be. We just totally deal with it every day. We eat foods that we don't necessarily look at the ingredients. We are taking in all sorts of toxins all the time. We're taking in different, hormonal disruptors from whether it's our environmental stressors or work stressors or family stressors that are leading to these hormonal imbalances. And we just literally believe that that's the status quo. And so we take that in as like, oh, this is my life, so I have to live like this, and this is the way I feel, and I'll feel like this forever. But that's, once again, a story that we're telling ourselves, because in society, oftentimes, especially if you see something on a commercial, they're capitalizing on our pain and our suffering. And so we just want to be really, really careful about what we're reaching for and the things that we're purchasing, and really take a self-assessment before you put it into your cart physically, or you click it into your cart online and say, do I need this? Or am I buying this because I don't want to really look at the root cause, right? I always say to people, if you have a check engine light on in your car and you know that you've got to take it into the mechanic, you can very easily take a piece of tape, masking tape, and put it over the dashboard so you don't see the check engine light blinking at your face. But we know that it's not going away. We're just masking the problem, and eventually the car is going to break down. That's the same idea with us. We use under eye concealer when we have bags under our eyes. We drink caffeine when we're tired. We have all these things, these Band-Aids, if you will, that we can put over the wound and move on with our day, when in fact we're not really serving those real root causes. And so we're going to look at those triggers. Okay, so here's some frequently asked questions. You've probably been looking over this as I've been talking, but these are some of the questions I get from people in my community. They say things like, how do I stop feeling tired all the time? What can I do to end those painful weeks before and during my cycle? What should I eat to not be so bloated or have fluid retention? How can I have better digestion? How can I lose stubborn body fat without starving myself? How do I get rid of hormonal migraines, mood swings, and cramps? What can I do about sugar cravings? How can I get rid of acne and skin problems? How can I reduce stress, boost energy, and focus? And how can I live a healthy life on a busy schedule? These are all questions you might have pondered yourself. And you'll see this little like mark that just came up on the screen. I'm gonna stop sharing and then share again because it looks like maybe accidentally one of the participants of the class like touched the screen because I've had that happen before, and it'll stay on all of them. So I'm just gonna stop sharing and then see if I can do that one more time. And I think it goes away once let's see here. Is it gone? Perfect. Okay. So in asking yourself all of these questions, I kind of want you probably already have a piece of paper and a pen somewhere nearby. But I kind of want you to identify which of these is one that you, or maybe you have a lot of them. You can just number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or numbers 2, 3, and 7, right? I kind of want you to just write those down as like your beginning point, because we're going to go over a lot of this later at the end, and I want to see where you're starting out, what questions you have. So go ahead and write those down. I'll leave this screen up here for you for a sec. Okay, thumbs up if you're done. Perfect. Awesome. Okay, now keep that somewhere safe so the next time I talk to you one-on-one, you can let me know, or you can email it to me. So I have this up here because you're probably thinking to yourself, like, who is this chick and what makes her qualified to even talk to me about these things? Well, I was one of you. I definitely have been in your shoes. I speak from experience. I will very briefly give you a little history behind all the things that I feel like I've gone through to get to this point. But I want you to know that I'm not showing you this photo to show anything about the way that I look per se, but I want you to get like the energetic vibe from this person. You can tell that she's not very fulfilled, and you can tell that she's faking that smile, right? And it's because I had doctors telling me that it didn't matter what I did in my diet, that I had to get on birth control pills to regulate my cycle. That was every 10 days. That I had to schedule a surgery to get my mass removed and fibroids and cysts removed, and that I had to surgically move my left ovary in order to have less pain. This is insane. But this is true. And that my hormone levels were borderline in, that my thyroid levels were borderline, but that they weren't in the danger zone, right? So mind you, meanwhile, not only is my cycle every 10 days, but my pain was unbearable, especially as a mother and trying to take care of other kids, right? And other responsibilities in the home. My sleep was crazy. I never stopped eating because I was craving things all the time. I had horrible migraines, and the list goes on, okay? So I finally found that the only solution for me was going to be listening to my body. And I did listen to my doctor, and I went in every 6 weeks, and I got my ultrasound, and I got my blood draw, and there was no improvement. And the surgery date was scheduled, and I was, feeling really horrible about it. And so I decided I would give, 90 days of just eating plant-based, eliminating everything inflammatory in my diet. And by the time I was supposed to have my surgery, cycle was regular, life is so much better, I'm happier, all the things, right? I mean, it's an ongoing. I didn't stop the process yet. I mean, I'm still on this road to recovery, but I love that there is hope, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that there is a possibility for me to do this without all the invasiveness. Now, I don't want to come across as saying or make you believe that, you know, Lena's saying that Western medicine isn't going to help, because that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is listen to your doctor, but also listen to your body and listen to your mind and your heart. Those two things can really work together. This idea of like Eastern and Western medicine can marry each other and find a happy medium. We don't always have to take what our doctors say at face value and just succumb to all the prescription and all the surgeries. If we can try to eliminate some of that on our own, then why wouldn't we, right? Which is why you're all here. I know that, and I feel that from you. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and it's an honor. Okay, here are some of the symptoms of hormonal imbalance, okay? So now you're gonna write down on your piece of paper how many of these apply to you, okay? So I'm gonna read them, and then you just count how many of these apply to you and write that number down, okay? So bloating, constipation, acid reflux, acne, weight gain, fat storage, hair loss, night sweats, mood swings, headaches, fluid retention, tender breasts, fibroids, fatigue, insomnia, sleeping problems, PCOS, PMS, menstruation problems, heavy or irregular periods, emotional breakdowns, depressive feelings, brittle nails, anxiety or overwhelm, brain fog, stress sensitivity, which is like basically overwhelm, but makes you feel like the slightest bit of stress makes you really, really anxious. That's what stress sensitivity is. Cold hands and feet, pale skin, joint pain, male hair growth somewhere on the face or somewhere else, painful breasts, low libido, dry hair, dry skin, stubborn fat, irritability, red flush, so you get like that nervousness face, or rosacea. Rosacea is redness in the T-zone. Okay, so count those up. And if you would, in the chat, just write down the number that applies to you. Thank you. I know that's not easy, but in the beginning stages, it's so important for us to really take a self-assessment. And so I hope that we're all aware of that. And this is a no judgment zone for sure. Okay, so now we're gonna look at 3 main triggers, and we're gonna kind of dissect what these triggers are and how one or more could be applicable to you in your situation. The first one is estrogen dominance, okay? So if you carry more of your weight in your upper legs, butt, hips, and have more of a pear shape, then most likely you have a high level of estrogen in your body. And estrogen can come from so many different sources, but mainly from things in our foods, okay? Foods that we're consuming. So some symptoms of someone that has high estrogen levels are things like PMS, painful breasts, agitation, mood swings, depressive feelings, tension, confusion, anxiousness, excuse me, hormonal migraines, water retention in ankles and belly, weight gain, heavy or painful or irregular menstruation, fertility problems, fatigue, light or irregular sleep. Ooh, I got a tickle. And consequences of long-term high estrogen dominance are things like endometriosis, fibroids, less stress resilience, so more stress sensitivity, hormone-related cancers, and metabolic syndrome, so really slow metabolism. These are long-term. So if someone has high levels of estrogen in their system for years and years and years, and they're not able to take care of it or balance it, and they're constantly fueling their body with more estrogen, then these could be consequences of that. And so I want you to, as we go through these, kind of identify where you fit in. And I'm not saying that you will be just one of the three. You might be all three. But it's important to identify what portions of these could be your possible triggers. Okay? Cortisol problems. Now, high cortisol is basically the level of stress that you have. And we're going to talk about stressors in just a minute. But if you have high stress in your life, then you're more likely to have underbelly button chub, okay? That's where you would have more of like the love handles shape. Some symptoms of high stress are that you wake up feeling tired, that you are more prone to anxiety. All three of these have some of them in common. Anxiety is one of them. Emotionally drained, can't rid yourself of stubborn body fat, digestive issues, headaches, hair loss, irritability, low libido, and sugar cravings, okay? Consequences of high levels of cortisol over long periods of time is adrenal burnout. So you've heard of adrenal fatigue before, high blood pressure, hypertension, IBS, heartburn, low immune function, shrinking prefrontal cortex, which is totally crazy. Have you seen that movie, The Female Brain? It's on, I think it's on Netflix. Guys, you got to watch it. It's so good. I saw it on a plane and I was like dying. Anyway, she talked about the prefrontal cortex shrinking when a woman has been through something traumatic and something like life-altering trauma. And that trauma or that PTSD or that state of stress continues over time. And so if somebody isn't able to kind of regulate their cortisol levels, then, I mean, this is really sad to say, but then their brain shrinks, so they're not as smart, which is odd. It's odd to even think that, but it's true. You ever met someone who's just been through so much in their life and you kind of think to yourself like, they're a marvelous person, but they're dumb as rocks. That sounds so mean, but you know who I'm talking about in your life. And it's just a fact scientifically and biologically that this totally happens to people. Loss of synaptic connections between neurons in the hippocampus. So again, unable to process. Cardiovascular disease, diabetes, not able to burn fat anymore. Accelerated aging. So premature aging, like maybe they're young, but they have wrinkles or they have gray hair. Mental distress, like depression and Alzheimer's disease, okay? So high levels of stress over long periods of time can lead to these consequences. And the third one that we're gonna take a look at is high insulin. Whew, this is definitely one that I feel like I have to work the hardest at. And this one is controlling your sugar levels in your body, okay? So if you have high insulin, that means you have a high level of sugar intake. These are women that have love handles and a little chub between like the shoulder blades and have more of an apple shape, okay? Symptoms of high sugar levels is that you crave sugar, obviously. You have a hard time skipping a meal, you get bloated after you eat, you have low energy, weight gain, hair loss, low libido, skin problems such as acne or skin tags, and you're always hungry. Consequences of sugar, high levels of sugar in the body over time, okay, is that this sugar stores itself as fat. We're gonna talk about the difference between fat storing hormones and fat burning hormones. And sugar is a fat storing hormone. High insulin is a fat storing hormone, okay? You have pancreas exhaustion because it's always working in overdrive trying to filter out all of the sugar that we're eating. Digestive issues, you have bad gut flora. Your gut flora and your enzymes are so important. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit too. You have insulin resistance, which means that over time you are consuming sugar and it's not even having an effect anymore. You're literally just made out of sugar. It's like sugar, you're like a hamster on a wheel, just like consuming sugar and all you want is more sugar. Type 2 diabetes, and then of course a low metabolism. Okay, all of us desire balance, that is true, but with the three particular triggers that we talked about, there are things that can be contributing to those. And for estrogen dominance, one of them is environmental disruptors. So I want to talk to you about that for a second before we move on, so that I'm really crystal clear on this topic, because I talked to a few of you already for your nutrition consultations, and I don't ever want it to come across like I'm saying you have to throw away everything in your house. Like, start tomorrow and just clean out all the cabinets. But what I am saying is have it be your last bottle of that one thing. You get what I'm saying? So like you can go in your kitchen and you can see, okay, I've got a lot of toxic chemicals in my house. And we know that toxins are endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors are what affect our hormone levels, okay? These are things that can speed you into premature menopause and all sorts of other hormonal imbalances. So if we can start to eliminate those simple toxins in the home, then before long, our environment is nice and clean, and we won't need to say that's an excuse as to why we feel a certain way. And I'm not just talking about your cleaning products, right? I'm also talking about the perfume you wear. Everything that you have in your environment that has a fragrance is artificial and synthetic. It's not natural. Your body is natural. Your body craves natural things in its environment. And when it has something in its environment that is not natural, your body has a visceral reaction to it. Typically, you become so accustomed to that synthetic aroma or that synthetic material in your home that you don't even smell it anymore. Like when I'm around people who use dryer sheets, I can smell them immediately because my body has been cleansed of the toxins in my environment. So now I'm very aware of it. But let me throw out an example to you that you could probably identify with. And that is Christmas time at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Okay, think about those stores at Christmas time. When you walk in, you might think to yourself, oh, this kind of smells nice for a minute, that cinnamon smell and the pine cones. And then you get closer to them and you're like, oh my gosh, I have a headache. Like it's too much, I can't handle it. And the same thing happens if you go into the fragrance aisle at the mall or the cleaning section of Target, the cleaning aisle. Yes, Mika says Yankee Candle Factory in Williamsburg. Exactly. You're like, oh, that smells nice. And then you're like, oh, it hurts, it hurts. That's your body's visceral reaction to toxins in your environment. But what's so insane, you guys, is that we become so accustomed to it that we just ignore it. Like we have plugins at home, we have candles at home, we use all sorts of things at home thinking, oh, it's fine, it smells nice, not realizing it's like killing us softly and slowly. Right? But it is. So if you can imagine that headache that you're feeling after smelling something really strong and fragrant, what do you think is happening on the inside as you're taking in these toxins slowly, little bits at a time? All right, it's weighing heavily on your hormones and on your endocrine system, okay? So once we can start to eliminate some of those toxins, and I'm even talking about pesticides in the foods that you buy from the grocery store. If you're not thoroughly washing those produce, you're consuming chemical burn and runoff from the soil. It's just a part of the soil system of conventional produce. If you buy organic, there's still a level of pesticides, but it's supposed to be healthier for you, right? So just take a minute or two and use some white vinegar or lemon essential oil and make sure you're thoroughly cleaning your produce. Okay, now high cortisol, those are things like chronic stress over time. We know it lowers your progesterone, and having a low progesterone leads to high estrogen. This is all like a domino effect. And then sugar overload leads to more fat cells in the body, and the fat cells love to store sugar. And so that's what we call our fat storing hormone is high insulin. When you eat a lot of sugar, you're also really putting your liver at a certain level of overworked and underpaid, right? Like it's really tired because it's working all day and all night to try and filter out all the crap that we're eating. And then of course that leads to gut problems, because if your liver is unhealthy, then you don't have a nice, juicy, healthy microbiome or microflora within your hind gut, which you need to stay healthy, okay? All right, so what are your stressors? These are common stressors that I hear people say: their family, their work, money, children, childcare, your health, all of these things are fat storing in your body because they're causing you stress, right? But did you know it goes even deeper than that? Because these typical fat storing stressors, family, work, money, childcare, and our health, it's actually leading to these other stressors that are really weighing heavily on us. Things like if our family's out of whack, if we've got problems with our spouse or our home or our partner or money, whatever, we're not sleeping as well, we have digestive issues, we have a congested liver, we have heart hunger. Heart hunger, this is a topic we could talk all night about, ladies. Heart hunger is when we go to the kitchen to feel better, not because we're hungry, right? Food addictions, toxic overloads, inflammatory foods, sugar, overeating, feeling unfulfilled in life, worrying about things, under eating. We have a broken metabolism, low self-esteem, all of that. These are all fat storing. And when I say there's a domino effect, this is what I mean, is that high cortisol, that high stress leads you to eat sugar, right? So then you get high insulin. The high insulin leads to inflammation, which leads to more testosterone, which leads to more estrogen, which leads to more stress. And it just repeats itself. It's this never-ending cycle. So how in the heck are we gonna do it? The only way to lower estrogen, insulin, and cortisol is by removing triggers at the cellular level, switching on our fat-burning hormones, and switching off our fat-storing hormones. So I'm gonna give you 5 steps, and this is where you're gonna take notes, okay? If you haven't already, this is the time, because these are things I want you to be able to do for the next 30 days, and we're gonna check in with each other, and we're gonna have support on the Facebook page, but also weekly on our Monday calls. We're gonna go over these even more in depth, all right? So, step 1, we are gonna work on our stress resilience. We're gonna work on our stress resilience. This is what I mean. I want you to practice mindfulness daily and learn to mind your mind, okay? So we're gonna combine a couple of these things as the weeks go on in our Monday calls, and we'll dig a little bit deeper is what I mean. But right now, just to kind of skim the surface so you understand, practicing mindfulness daily is not sitting Indian style like Buddha and feeling way out of your comfort zone. And Lynette's laughing because she knows that's me. I'm not asking you to do Kundalini yoga like me. However, next Monday, we're totally gonna do some on the call. So, just to get out of your comfort zone at least one time. But what I want you to recognize is that there is a mindfulness practice for you that fits your life that you can do daily. And self-care or self-preservation, self-love, however you're taking care of yourself, is exactly that. It is not in the work or service of someone else. Even though it feels nice to help other people or it feels nice to work for someone else, you're really not serving yourself. When you're in the service of other people, okay, you can't hear what's going on the inside because all you're focusing on is them. But when you are in the service of yourself, you can actually hear your thoughts. You can hear your breath. So we're gonna take 1 minute and we're gonna intentionally breathe. And this is what I mean by intentionally breathe. We're gonna focus on breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. And every time a breath goes in, I want you to say the word in your head, let. And when the breath comes out your mouth, I want you to say the word go. And your right hand is gonna be over your heart because you're gonna feel that breath. You're gonna really take it in. It's gonna be nice and slow. So I'm gonna say in and out. I'm gonna put a little timer on. Right hand over your heart. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Again, in. Out. This last time, do it all on your own. Good. Wasn't hard, right? See, if I could, I'd give you all a hug. Okay, now, why is that important? Because in the body, inside our body, we need oxygen for our blood to flow nice and smooth throughout the body. Oxygen to get to our brain and all the way down to our toes. And when we don't take deep breaths, we're limiting where that oxygen goes. So every time you take a nice deep breath, and I'd like to do it for 60-second increments throughout the day, 3, 4, 5 times a day, where I stop and I really intentionally breathe and take in that moment, because that is reminding my body, 1, to care for itself, and 2, it brings me mental clarity. And I am very prone to being anxious. That's just something genetically from my great-grandmother all the way down to me. And so if I don't check myself mentally throughout the day, I have nothing left to give my family. How could I possibly have anything left for me, right? And so when we serve ourselves, when we really focus just a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, just for you, then you have something left to give back to the people in your life. And then I love this here, that number 2, 90% of the things that we worry about actually never happen. Which is so insane, you guys. Why do we do this as women? We just like churn over and over in our mind, like, oh, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about this. And all we're doing is like bringing our energy down, okay? When we can lower our stress, when we can lower and decrease the amount of anxiety and overwhelm we feel, we're actually balancing our hormones. So this is a mandatory practice of this 30-day course. Now, I'm not there to hold your hand or, punish you if you don't do it, but I hope that it's self-regulated. I hope that you see the importance of this, because I can tell you from my own personal experience, the more in tune I am with my mind and with my body and with my breath, the happier and the healthier I am as a mom and as a woman, okay? Perfect. Number two is being aware of your physical stressors in your environment. We talked about this already, but I think it's important for us to realize and recognize that there are some things that we do that the world tells us is okay, that the world says, you should exercise, or to be skinny, you shouldn't eat. When those two things are super counterproductive in our mission to balancing out our hormones. I'm not saying don't exercise at all. What I am saying is exercise to the capacity that feels in your zone. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. Let's say Sally, doing this class, has worked out 60 minutes a day for the last year and a half. She doesn't need to change that. I would even suggest maybe sticking with that, or including a day of yoga or a day of like walking or something like that, where it's less intensive on the body, because we do want to have a shift. We do want to switch things up a bit. What I am saying though to someone else, let's say Jessica, okay, for example, Jessica's taking the course and she hasn't worked out in a year. I'm not asking Jessica to get on the treadmill for 30 minutes or 60 minutes a day. That's what I'm saying. I want everybody to do something in their zone for 30 minutes, 3 or 4 days a week. 3 or 4 days a week. And I'm talking about heart rate moving, but not like pumping hard. Because if you over-exercise, if you're over-exerting yourself, your body is in an inflammatory state. And that inflammatory state has a really hard time after you work out and going into the kitchen, because it's going to crave things that aren't good for you. It's going to crave things that are going to soothe that inflammation for an hour or two and then cause more inflammation the next day. Okay, so I don't want to say that no working out, and I don't want to say work out every day. I want to say do what fits best for you in your life and kind of where you are. You kind of measure that, think about that, and figure out for yourself where you best fit in there. And then when it comes to food, so many women do this. They undereat, right? And then there comes a point in the day where they're like starving And so they just go into the kitchen and they eat everything they could possibly find. Even if it's healthy food, they eat 10 pounds of it because they haven't eaten all day. And that lack of calorie intake can be really counterproductive in your journey to healing hormones, because we want to make sure everything is kind of in moderation. I'm not saying you have to eat exactly like the meal plan says, but that meal plan is a guideline for you. So when the time comes in the day, you know you have something to eat. There's no excuse like, I don't know what to make, or, you know, I don't have anything in the fridge. We're giving this as an opportunity so that when you are hungry, you know you have something available to you. And then we all know sleep is huge. We're going to cover more about that in a couple weeks, but sleep is huge. The 8 hours or 7 hours that you get every night is a restorative state of the body. It's the only time of our day that the body truly, truly heals itself. And the less hours of sleep you get, the less time your body has to heal. And let me add to that, if you go to bed after midnight, let me say that again, your body needs 2 extra hours. So when you let's say you go to bed at 10 p.m., okay, and you get 8 hours, you're living nice and large the next day. But let's say you go to bed at 10 p.m. and you only get 6 hours. You're sitting real good still because you went to bed 2 hours before midnight. Once you hit the clock hits midnight and you get 6 hours, your body's going to feel very different than if you went to bed at 10 and you got up at whatever 6 hours is after that. I can't think math right now, but you get what I'm saying, right? So the earlier you go to bed, even if you get up early, your body still has that time to heal. It's this whole sleep cycle that is really fascinating, especially when it comes to our hormones and our period, right? When we get sleep, we have a much easier cycle, especially when you're like ovulating in those days in between ovulation and your cycle beginning. There's a really strange thing that happens where the body needs more sleep. And so you're more tired. And if you're not getting your proper rest during those, 5-7 days, whatever that is for you, then you're going to feel more exhausted, and it's going to play out in all the other areas of your life. Okay. Perfect. Step 3. This one we got you covered, right? How many of you went to the store and you got stuff from the list? Good, good. Now, I've lined up for you a pretty good selection of plant-based food, things that are going to be anti-inflammatory but also tasty, because I don't want you to get thrown into this thinking that you have to eat salad every day of your life or every meal of the day. Lynette, I'm talking to you, sister. Although I'm really proud of you. You've come a long way in the salad journey, but it's important that we can identify foods that we like, because we're so emotionally attached to different things. Like pizza, I'm Italian, that's huge for me. So I have to really think about, how I can still enjoy a Friday night with my family without having the same pizza that they do. Okay, so I will have pizza on the menu in the coming weeks, and you'll get to try it Lena style. But these types of foods are anti-inflammatory. So we know omega-3s are needed in the diet. We know that. We're not going to be consuming fish during these 30 days. I'm not saying after the 30 days to exclude fish. You can include that in later. But I'm saying right now we want to avoid any possible chance of having hormones in the foods that we're eating, okay? So the omega-3s that you're getting are from a trusted source in the Exio Omega supplements. And those are so valuable, you guys. They are mixed together with essential amino acids, different essential oils, blended together in such a perfect way. They are anti-inflammatory for the heart, the lungs, the liver, the brain. They help all these systems in the body to really function at their best capacity. Alliums are super important. That's onions, leeks, garlic. Okay, you've got to include those in your diet. Crucifers, that's going to be like your broccoli or your cauliflower. leafy greens like kale or butterhead lettuce, romaine lettuce, chard, anything like that. Complex slow carbs, those are things like lentils or sweet potatoes. Power spices, that's your basil, your parsley, cilantro. Fiber-rich veggies, oh gosh, there's so many, but I love me some zucchini, butternut squash, spaghetti squash, lots of clean proteins. Clean proteins, again, chickpeas, lentils, hemp seeds, nuts, and things like that. So these are really, really great anti-inflammatory foods. And again, I wanted to just stress to you why I'm only doing 1 week at a time instead of giving you this all at once. And what I've seen in the past is when it's given all at once, less people make it through the program because it's so intense, right? You get this whole thing and you're like, oh my gosh, this is too much, I can't handle it. But if it's 1 week at a time, it seems doable because we're all doing it together. So the recipes themselves make enough for a family. So if you have a smaller family, you might end up doing the recipe and then eating the leftovers the next day. So you can use the other recipes that I've given you as backups, or after the program's over, you can, continue to use the recipes for your family. So don't feel like you have to stick to it every single day exactly as it's outlined. It's given to you more as a guideline. Okay, step 4, we talked about the high levels of toxicity that exist in our environment. And we talked about how important it is to eliminate that. There are 2 ways that are really beneficial at helping to eliminate those toxins. One of them is the food nutrient enzymes that you're taking called Terrazyme. And today was the first day that you guys have started these supplements. And so I'm really excited to get your feedback on the Facebook page. And even at the end of this call, if you have questions about the supplements, please don't hesitate to ask. But the Terrazyme digestive enzymes are some of the most, I know this is going to sound ridiculous. You're going to think, Lena, you are so exaggerating. I'm serious. Some of the most revolutionary supplements I've ever taken. Guys, I'm so crazy. But it's true. They're so good for you. My husband, who served 2 terms in Iraq and Afghanistan, had terrible digestive health until he took Terrazyme. And now he's been on it for years, and he'll never stop. Because what it does is it takes those 10 food groups that would typically be in someone's diet, and it helps the body to do 2 things. 1, physically digest and like munch and crunch down the food in the stomach. And 2, it helps the body to absorb the nutrients that you're eating to actually use them as energy in the body. Because if you're just eating food and it's not serving you, it's just empty calories and a sore jaw, right? We want to actually eat food that's helping us. And so Terrazyme does that. And it does it in the most beautiful way, because I've seen it happen where I've been out of town somewhere and, the server swore up and down and the manager swore up and down there wasn't dairy in this meal. And then afterwards I'm dying at the hotel, right? And I'm like over the toilet, etc. And so I can take my Terrazyme and I can know that within a couple of minutes, I'm going to feel night and day. All right. So be sure to be taking those 2 before breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then the second really, really important part of this toxic load that we're trying to decrease in the body, not just pesticides or bacteria, yeast, overgrowth of fungus, but everything that you have in your body that shouldn't be there, can really be resolved by the doTERRA pre and probiotics that you're taking. In the email, it recommended that you keep it in the fridge. I do that for an added measure of protection. It's not a requirement from doTERRA, but it is for me because I know how vulnerable probiotics are. They are the most vulnerable organism outside of the body because they're alive, right? And they're vulnerable to light, temperature, sound, smell. They're in like a UV protected capsule. Did you see those? They're clear, and then on the inside it's green. Okay, so the clear outside part, that is chlorophyll. That's the prebiotic fiber. Fiber is not absorbed in the small intestine. So that's why it goes down to the hindgut and it actually protects the probiotic. So instead of the probiotic getting into your stomach, and then the stomach acid killing away those living microorganisms that are in there, the prebiotic protects it, takes it down to the hindgut, and then that's where it starts to really repopulate and proliferate the gut so that your gut can be full of all this amazing living microorganisms and healthy bacteria. Okay, perfect. Okay, last but not least are these supplements. And we already talked about the omega-3s, but you have to take a whole food supplement to regulate hormones, but to live healthy. Even when my hormones are regulated, I'm still going to continue to take these supplements. And this is why, and it's kind of a hot topic in the nutrition world because it's so hard to find a multivitamin that you can actually trust. And that's why I stick really strongly with these ones, because they're so transparent and I know exactly what's in them and how they're serving my body. So as an Italian American, my family is sort of transplanted here, and I'm first generation Italian American. So my body craves and needs different vitamins and trace minerals than most people who were, let's say, their family's been here for eons of time. Okay, where someone who maybe I don't know, Mexican American comes here, they're going to have different nutritional needs than me even. Okay, so what we have here in the standard American diet is there's a lot to be desired, I feel like. Is that mean? I don't know how else to say it. You eat a tomato here and you're like, is this a tomato? Because when you're in Italy, it doesn't taste like that. It tastes amazing. You can eat it like an apple. And here you're like, it doesn't really have a flavor. It's kind of watered down or it's mushy and you can't really put your finger on like what you're even eating. You can't figure it out. But what you need to understand is that it's not your fault that you're not getting your nutritional needs met. Okay, here we have an overpopulation and our soil is overworked. They say they turn it, they say they burn the crops. Trust me, my dad's a farmer, it's all a lie. He tells me it's all a lie. So if you're not buying from a farmer's market and locally grown produce every single time you consume, then, and you're getting things from the grocery store like most of us, then you're not getting the nutritional needs met. Okay, 50 years ago, what was in our foods looked so different than it does now. We go to the grocery store now and all of a sudden we can have watermelon when it's not even in season. And you're thinking to yourself, oh, thank you, I'm so excited to have this watermelon. Then you go, where the heck did this come from, right? It's imported from somewhere else in the world. We don't know where. It's been sitting in some container cooling, and it was picked prematurely, which means it was picked before those vitamins, supplements, and minerals in the soil were even able to really populate that plant. And so when I say it's not your fault, what I'm saying is it's not your fault. Okay, it's not your fault. We don't have control over that. But what we do have control over is how we fuel our bodies from our own medicine cabinet. And I choose to do that with a supplement that I absolutely trust because doTERRA sources them so that they are fair trade. They are farming. They've been farming in these areas for eons of time. It's literally food nutrient supplements. So instead of like mimicking a supplement in a lab somewhere to try and recreate nature, instead, doTERRA takes those actual foods that contain those supplements and minerals and puts them right into these vitamins. So the big VMZ that you see that you've been taking, like the white ones, those are the ones that have all the vitamins A, B, C, D, your B12s, your B6, your CoQ10s, magnesium. It's got potassium and fiber and all of that, okay? Those are really essential, but it has it in such a way that it's not too much for your body. Have you ever taken a supplement before and then you go to the restroom and you're like, oh my gosh, it's all in the toilet. Like, that's expensive. You just spent all this money and it's down the drain. And that happens because your body's not able to absorb 2,000 or 5,000% of your daily intake. Your liver is like, no way, Jose. But they do that because they can't mimic nature. So they have to put in thousands of, magnesium or calcium in there, or vitamin C, for goodness sake, because they think, oh, the body's not going to be able to absorb all of this. Let's throw this out there with the hopes that maybe it will absorb 5% or 10%. But with the doTERRA supplements, I've noticed that I retain the supplement all day long. Sometimes I only remember to take half a dose, like if I get really busy at night or something with the kids, and I still feel great. I don't reach for things. I'm not trying to fulfill a void because I'm lacking a vitamin or a nutrient in my body because I've taken it that morning. And the same thing with the Alpha CRS Plus, that purple one that you see there in the photo of Nico and I on the side, that Alpha CRS Plus is awesome. It is all antioxidants. Antioxidants are really essential when you're trying to balance hormones because what it does is it helps to fight the free radicals that are already taking over and disrupting our endocrine system. It's like a whole cycle, right? So that the antioxidants can go in there, fuel the body through the mitochondria of the cells, and give you energy. And that energy is coming from a natural source, so you don't have to reach for the coffee or reach for the caffeine or the Coke or whatever, okay? So make sure you're taking this at the full dose. All right. I feel like that's the last slide. That was the last slide. Okay, I'm going to get off of here, and then we'll finish up with some things. Oh, wait. I lost my little spot. You still with me? Did I put anybody to sleep? Especially East Coasters. Oh my gosh, Mika, you're so awesome. Okay, so let me think here. What was I talking about? So those 5 tips or those 5 tools that are going to help us throughout this month, we're going to make sure we keep tabs on the Facebook page and that we're all kind of in on this together. Okay, Mika says she's still awake. Good. All right, now unmute yourselves. And let's open this up to questions, any clarification that may be needed. Chelsea, it looks like you're going to have to unmute yourself because it won't let me manually do it. There we go. Perfect. Does anyone have any questions about tonight, or did I skip something that I said I was going to say and then didn't say it? Who's excited?
Something I was wondering about was the portions, because today when I made the bake and it's just my husband and I.
Okay.
We had half of it and then there was half left. And I was like, now, like, what was this meant for 2? Was this meant for? And then the salad actually, like, the other things we ended up eating all of it, so that was fine. So maybe we just eat more than usual. But I was wondering about like portion sizes and
yeah. So,
and also, sorry, go ahead.
No, you first.
No, just usually when I make stuff, like, that's good to think about, because I was like thinking I needed to do it, like, I want to try out every recipe, so I want to try it all out, which is not my usual, because usually I make like something like a bake and then have it all week, so it's like easier, I guess, or like a go-to, or at least for a few days or something. So that's good, but I definitely want to try out all the recipes now as we're going.
Yeah, for sure. So to answer your first question, yeah, I put that in the email, but I wasn't sure if people would see it. Like, it really is based on what I cook for my family, and I have 4 kids, so, and they're boys. I mean, they're little, so they don't eat a ton, but still, yeah. You know. And that eggplant caponata is a play on a recipe from my Nonna, and her and I, we just made it on Sunday, and I still have it in the fridge. So I feel you, like, you definitely get leftovers, and it actually tastes really good cold. So I have like gluten-free bread that I love to have it on the next day, almost like a meatball sub, but without the meatballs.
Okay. Yeah, that was the one we went to a concert tonight, so I didn't get to make that one, but the salad and the bake, that was good. So I'm excited to try that one too.
Yeah, for sure. Did I answer your question though?
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
Anybody else have a question?
Well, I have a question. If you can hear me.
I can hear you.
So balance, like family balance. I don't want to make 4 meals. How do you, I don't know. I have a very supportive family, and they're awesome at jumping in and trying what I'm making. Yeah. But I don't know if they necessarily need like, this is kind of extreme. They need to eat clean, they need to eat healthfully, but maybe not so intense for them.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, how do you balance it, like, with your family?
Yeah, so that's a good question. My husband is an omnivore, so he cooks whatever meat he wants and adds it to whatever I've made, which is totally fine. So I'm no judge. Like, we're just an open family. I honestly am doing this for my health. There may be a point in time where I can eat my grandmother's meatballs again. It's just not right now. But yeah, that's a really good question. What I would suggest is taking a day, or I know you work too, but maybe have an afternoon while you've got baby down for a nap, and you can put together something that you know she's gonna like. So maybe do like, you could even freeze, I don't know, what are some fun kid meals that she might like? I mean, my kids love quesadillas, but you can't freeze quesadillas. Like a cute like mac and cheese or something with crumbly cheese on top. Or my suggestion would be to prepare something that you can keep in the freezer and then take little bits out, and maybe have a variety of things. So it's easy is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to actually cook something separate every single night, unless it's like a grilled cheese, something super easy. But like, what I try to do is, we know that we're going to have the boys eat what we're eating, but then I'll make something extra that I know they really like too, like a pasta or, rice on the side, or whatever, something like that.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. It wasn't that helpful, but
It was helpful.
I'll think of more options.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Any other questions? Or what other questions do you have, I should say? Do you feel like this is doable for you? That's what I want to know.
For me, like I guess there's always an excuse or a reason. So I was going to say I was out of town this weekend, so I feel a little out, like all over the place. And like, I was really like wanting to get the meals in today. And I was like, I guess it's always like finding the time to like actually do it. And I did a Harris Teeter online grocery order.
Nice.
And the lady was not used to like the things that I was ordering, so like she had to call like multiple times and be like, we don't have this, like I need to substitute for this. So like it was a little bit of an ordeal. So yeah, so there's some like,
yeah,
I guess, but like it's a process, so like that's okay. And I think like I have to just say that that's okay. But
yeah, it is okay. And what's so cool is that over time you'll have these things in your cupboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There. And then I'm a huge proponent of eating foods in season. And so I try really hard to focus on like what would be in season, but what's in season for me here might not be in season for you there, Mika.
Yeah.
So if you need to adjust any of the recipes, you have permission.
No. Yeah. I think it's just some things that like online on their website, they have like the more specific things, but like at this local one, like once I put in the order, she was like, we don't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking could be helpful, and correct me if I'm wrong if you're like, that doesn't sound helpful at all, but I was thinking of writing a list of things that are kind of staples for me that I just have. Would that be something you'd be interested in? Yeah?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
And I feel like as it goes, I'll figure out like what some of because I had like a chance to look over everything, but it doesn't make sense to me until I like actually do it. So when I was making, I was like, oh, that's what goes in that. So like, I think as it happens, then it will, yeah.
And my goal is, because I am writing a book, but my goal is like, here, I haven't found a photographer yet, and I'm not the best photographer, especially for food. And so when that gets going, like I'll make sure I have you guys pictures of all the things that you're making.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but we can still like have, I mean, I can put my ugly pictures on Facebook. Nobody cares. Right? You're not going to care.
No. I have a coworker who wants to be a food photographer, and I thought it was a really unusual thing, but I guess there are people who like stage food and like
take definitely a real thing.
Yeah.
I went to a food blogger conference in September, and there was like a whole course on food photography, and it was like part 1 of like a 25-part series. So yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, what do you guys think? Is this doable? Chelsea?
Well, so I've had lots of problems in the past. So I've worked with different doctors and different programs. And what I have learned from past experience and then what's happening here is the importance and value of learning what food does and how it affects you, and then making it a joyful part of who you are. So I'm excited that, like, it was nice to hear that, like, the meal plan is guidelines and it's like your insurance. Like, it's there for you in case you need something, but to also use your brain, do some research, find stuff that's interesting to you. I think too often, especially in American culture, we just try to stick to somebody's diet plan, and that's where I think things get hard. So yeah, this feels really doable because I feel like you can customize it. I'm given the information to know what things do to me and then how to customize it to make me happy.
Yeah, exactly. There was a couple of things I meant to cover on the call that I just thought of as you were talking. So do you mind if I just take one more minute? It's probably getting past. Oh, it's past. I'm so sorry, Mika. What time is it?
No, that's fine. Yeah, with daylight savings time, I'm like a little rough, but it's good.
Okay, so I know I talked a little bit in the email, but it's not a requirement to juice celery juice, okay? But if it is an option for you, I suggest it. So if you have a juicer or if you have a Vitamix with like a cheese strainer, it's definitely something that has helped a ton when it comes to balancing my hormones. And it's basically 15 minutes before you even eat breakfast, you would have 16 ounces of celery juice. And celery juice is not a requirement for this at all. But if it's something you want to include, you can. And one stalk, so an entire stalk of celery, is one 16-ounce glass. Okay, not a rib. A rib is just like one of the pieces of the stalk, but an entire stalk is, so I buy 7 stalks a week for myself. But it's only $1.99 organic here, so I'm fine with that. And someone was telling me the other day, was it Chelsea? Who was telling me the other day on the phone that it was like $1.29 or something? Was it you, Lynette?
It's about 49 here, organic.
49, yes. You're a winner. Winners in Texas. No, but it's definitely not a requirement. But what I do want to kind of set as a guideline are some, and I hate even saying that, but like restrictive things, even though they are plants or referred to in like the vegan world. Corn. So you'll notice none of the recipes have corn anyways, but if you're using as a guideline, like you are, I want to make sure the other foods you're eating don't have these things because they can lead to hormonal imbalance, especially in the beginning stages of you moving down this road. So corn, canola oil. Canola oil is another biggie. Artificial sugars and added sugars. Sorry. And of course, meat right now and dairy. Okay, so no meat, no dairy, no canola oil, no corn, no sugar. And you'll notice that there aren't any grains, but it's not, well, it's okay if you have grains. I can't right now, but in this program, it's not like a no-no, okay? It's whatever you can do in that. So if you're like, I need to have avocado toast, have avocado toast. It's fine. I just won't be sending out recipes that have gluten in them, okay? Cool? But the for sure no-nos are, let's type it in the chat. Corn, sugar, dairy, meat, canola oil. Oh, I forgot another one. Dang it, soy. Did I miss any?
Artificial sweeteners.
Yeah. what I'll do is I'll put that in our next email that goes out tomorrow. Is tomorrow Wednesday? No, Wednesday. Wednesday you get the recipes for next week. So I'll put this list on there. Maybe I'll even make a graphic. You can print out and put on your fridge or something like that. That sound good? Good. Okay, well, I'm here for you. I'm excited. Mika and I have our nutrition appointment tomorrow. I think it's 9:30 my time. Is that right?
Yes, it's like noonish. It's around my lunchtime yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'll call you then. And otherwise, I'll see you next Monday. But I hope to see you on the Facebook page.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Guys,
Thanks, Lena.
bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.